If your child has ADHD, they are a gift to this world. We just need to change our teaching so that their gifts can shine. Welcome back to All the Right Colors. My name is Katharine, and today I want to talk to you about how do you keep a kid engaged in reading and writing if they have ADHD. Back when I was in the classroom, we just chalked it up to that kids with ADHD just can't focus and they need breaks. But there's actually a lot of additional ways that you can help a child with ADHD. I've been working with a lot of kids with ADHD. They come to my learning center and they've really thrived as a reader or as a writer. And I want to teach you some of those strategies. It's not that they just have focus issues. It's not that they just need medication and they'll be fine, or it's not just the school is just not for them. There's actually ways that you can support them. The first thing you want to do is look up the Brown model for ADHD because it explains the executive functioning skills we need to do work and complete work. And a lot of times kids with ADHD might have an imbalance in their executive functioning skills and having trouble with regulating them. And as long as you adjust your learning so that their executive functioning skills feel much more leveled, you'll be fine. And that's all I do is I work with a child and I will notice, okay, what are the challenges with executive functioning they're having and how can I adjust the way I teach for that? As a parent, you can do this at home. As a teacher, if you adjust your teaching to kids with executive functioning challenges, it will also benefit students who don't even have executive functioning challenges. First thing is we need to make sure we regulate emotions. We need to make sure that kids feel calm, kids feel positive, and kids feel proud of themselves. The first thing to do that is adjust your environment. Create an environment that feels very peaceful. That means not a lot of clutter, maybe a lot of color, and it feels really calm for them. There's a lot of information online on learning environments, even making it very supportive of kids' sensory needs. The other part of emotions is pouring in positive reinforcements and positive talk to the student. So that means that when they are working or even when they start, give them a positive statement to say, I can do this. I am really smart. I'm brilliant. I'm a great writer. These are statements we want them to be able to repeat and say, and they want to hear you give them compliments so that they can start believing it themselves. So that is extremely important. It's just always making sure that their emotions feel safe and feel calm. When you can do that, a kid with ADHD is going to just start blossoming in your learning space. The second thing you want to do is help them slow down their processing, especially when it comes to reading or spelling. One thing that I think that's really cool about kids with ADHD is that their minds can be thinking about multiple things at the same time, right? I'm sure you know about this. And that's really awesome. But when it comes to reading, they unfortunately have to focus a lot on one little word and break it down. And they just want to speed through the words. But when we first start learning reading, we do have to slow down how we're sounding out each word when we're spelling and when we're decoding. And to slow that down is add some fun sensory activities for them. I talk about this more in depth in my other YouTube videos, but take Play-Doh and break it apart and make them push or smash it. And have them squeeze it together flat. That way in the future, if they see the sound, they'll know how to slow that consonant blend and apply it to any word that they see. So just slowing down that process will be really helpful. Let's say one day they don't have Play-Doh, because who has Play-Doh at all times? Then you can teach them how to draw sound balls as they are spelling out a word or as they're reading a word to help them slow it down. This is a really great way to add some kinesthetic experiences to slow processing down and keep it really engaging, which we will talk about more in a few seconds. Memory. Memory is also another challenge for kids with ADHD because they may have long-term memory or memory retrieval challenges. So you want to do whatever you can to help them remember and be able to access their memory without overwhelming them. When it comes to spelling or phonics, I make sure that I do not teach more than one rule or one phonics sound each time I'm working with them. If you go on my website, there's a free scope and sequence you can download that chunks the sounds into categories that I have felt is stimulating enough where kids with ADHD aren't getting bored, but also slow enough where they don't get overwhelmed with the sounds. In each of the boxes, you can even teach each individual sound separately so that each one of them gets their own time. For example, the E sound sometimes can be spelled EA and sometimes they can be spelled EE. For a kid with ADHD, I'm not going to teach both of those at the same time. That would be very overwhelming and confusing for their brain. Instead, what I'll do is I will just focus on E and add visuals to help them. And also they have to flip it, right? So it's kinesthetic as well. And we're just going to go over words with the EE sound. And they'll see different examples of it. We'll do activities, games, and then maybe a week or 2 weeks later, I will introduce EA, and their brains will separate those two into two different categories instead of one. That will help them access those sounds and those rules a lot easier than if we taught them all at the same time. That probably is helpful for anybody, but especially for kids with ADHD. And then the focus. This is the one that we all know about, right? Like we notice that first about kids with ADHD, they really struggle with focus. How can you really support that? The common theme or the common denominator is to always tune into their interests and teach to their interests. So lose that feeling of, I want to talk about this really cool topic, so I need to teach that. Sometimes, yes, that's appropriate, but a lot of times allow them to tell you what their interests are and teach to that. I had a student who I really wanted them to review some of the sounds that we've learned so far, and I wanted a game. And I found out that they love poop. Funny enough, a lot of kids really love the topic of poop. So I made a bunch of poop emojis. And in this game, you can download it on my website or on Etsy and Teachers Pay Teachers. You have cards that are crumpled up. If you grab one with words, you have to read it and sound it out. If you grab one with poop, you get a point. And the goal is to get as many poop emojis as you want. You can even do a subtraction version of that where if you grab a poop, you lose a point. Who knows? This made it so much more engaging. And then when I was working with a student who loved trucks, then it wasn't the poop game anymore. It was the trucks game. And it was so easy because I just had to change the images for that kid. And it made a world of difference for them. Customize all your games. That's why I care so much about not getting games off of Amazon, but making your own games because they matter to your child, even though it's one small difference. When it comes to reading, a pattern I've learned is kids with ADHD love feeling stimulated, right? That dopamine chase, and graphic novels do that so well. In a graphic novel, there's words, there's facial expressions, there's action with the graphics, and that's really important for a kid with ADHD. It's super engaging. When I was a teacher in the classroom, we always would poop on this idea of graphic novels. We always felt like it wasn't as valuable as reading a chapter book. And I made a mistake. If you are someone like me who's always been team chapter books and anti-graphic novels, I challenge you to read one yourself, because once you do, you will maybe think, maybe it's not as easy as I thought. When I was reading it, I realized I'm not used to reading visuals and noticing the actions and then the words. It's a lot of right brain, left brain working together to understand a story. And I thought it was advanced work. Also, these books, not only are they entertaining, they have really great messages, themes, topics that are relatable for kids that are really interesting. And I think it's really worth saying, you know what? Okay, I'm going to let you read graphic novels. Look at it. It looks like a whole thick chapter book. Why not have them go read some graphic novels? If your child is writing and they're really struggling with it, for me, what's worked is I get rid of the notebooks, I get rid of the worksheets, and I say, what do you want to write about? What's the topic you love? I had a student here who she loves hedgehogs. And she's like coming up with this idea of hedgehogs in a big melon that's a vehicle underwater. And she made a story called Super Melon. Now, this book is on Amazon. She's a published author now. So she went from, I'm really struggling with writing, to I'm an author. That can be every child that has ADHD. We just need to change the way we teach so that it supports the way they learn. Something else related to all of this is that a person with ADHD might see one task and feel very overwhelmed with it because they can see all the different little steps it takes to complete it. For example, if you were to ask a grown-up with ADHD, hey, go do laundry, they might see it as, oh my God, that's so many steps, and they get overwhelmed. Same thing with reading and writing. How do you solve this problem? For reading, what you would do is you read a page, they read a page, or you read one speech bubble and they read another speech bubble. Lower the lift that they have to make so they don't feel like they are responsible for reading every single page. Laugh about it, talk about the pictures, talk about a scenario in here that you can relate to. When they start feeling like this experience is enjoyable, I can do it, then slowly they will feel comfortable reading all the pages on their own. In writing, kids with ADHD might have a very elaborate story with a lot of words, a lot of plot lines, but their muscles are still growing. So they're still trying to learn how to write, but their muscles get tired when they're writing, or they're still learning how to spell and sound out words. And in a kid with ADHD, they're thinking that is so many steps. I got to think about spelling. I got to think about what to say, but what I'm saying, the sentence is too long. I need to simplify that. Oh my gosh, my hand hurts. That's a lot of steps. Instead, what I do is I say, just be the writer. Focus on coming up with the story. I'm going to be your secretary and I'm going to type it for you, or I'm going to write it on paper for you. And the second I do that, man, they turn into the most amazing writer. They will just go on and on about their story. You give them positive compliments because to regulate their emotions, and they will end up writing books and books. I hope that you were able to take a few nuggets of this and apply it to your student or your child. Kids with ADHD, we have to stop seeing it as a disability and a problem in school. The problem in school is that we need to change the way we are teaching so that the kids with ADHD thrive. I've talked about this on my podcast, but in the real world, people with ADHD are often the ones who are CEOs and inventing things for us. And they're the leaders of our world. If your child has ADHD, they are a leader. They are a gift to this world. We just need to change our teaching so that their gifts can shine. If you learned something from this video, please like and subscribe so someone else like you can find our information. Follow us on Instagram or reach out to us at alltherightcolors@gmail.com. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time at All the Right Colors.